So I know that that was a little bit cliche to kind of do that, but I really wanted you to see this space because I've been working super hard on my lighting setup and how I want to kind of create these videos for now on. This is more the look that I wanted to do, and if you watched my last video on my 2 favorite video lights, you'll know exactly why I'm making today's video. Let's talk about it. So first and foremost, I hope you're having an amazing day today. I know that I am because I'm finally pretty satisfied with the lighting setup that I have here in the studio. And if you watched the previous video, I personally thought it was kind of ugly with the whole color tones and everything. And part of that was because of the color grade that I did. I just wasn't very happy with the setup. I like to test my setups quite frequently, and that's why things change every so often. But I finally have a lens that I like to use mostly for these videos, and that's the Canon 24mm prime lens, which is phenomenal when it's stationary like this because there's no internal stabilization. And I am using my newer 176 as well as my newer 160. Now you'll also notice now we get to see this snazzy little arrow sign in the background. My color LEDs are actually making somewhat of an effect, and this little practical back here looks pretty awesome also. So let's talk about the differences of today's video versus the last video and how I got this overall setup. The first thing you might notice, I'm actually standing now and not sitting in my chair, and you know, it's a difference in its own, but I think it's a lot healthier for one, and two, it gives me the ability to change these things up. Because I am in such a small space, it's really hard to get the look and feel of things that I want to do. So upon watching some YouTube videos and getting some ideas of how other creators have their stuff set up, I determined that standing up and moving things around the way that it is works the best. So right now my camera and my newer 176 light with the softbox and everything sitting on my bed. I had to take my boom stand and just raise that up to fit with this level. And then I just put my CN 160 newer light up really high and just shoot it straight down with a little bit of orange. Now with the lens I'm using now, I can get my aperture at 2.8, so I could kind of shallow out that background a little bit. And also I feel like this lens does a really good job at picking up the colors from my color LEDs. Also, by moving my Keylight farther away from the wall, we're not getting a bunch of, daylight splash back there that's mixing with the color lights, so that way the color lights can really shine. I also changed the colors here, so we got blue on this side and a purple over here, so it's not all this orange mess like we saw in the last video. So the purpose of the last video, making it look kind of trashy like that, was to show you that you can change things with space. You'll notice that I said in the video that because of my white walls and things that we saw a lot of stuff that I didn't really like. Well, with just a little bit of changing of your space, you can really get the look you want and dial in those specs. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of switch to my iPhone, and I'm going to kind of show you the setup that I got and kind of what's going on there. So here's exactly what I'm looking at. You got my bed here, don't mind a couple of random clothes, but here's my softbox. This is my Keylight that's lighting me up. My microphone's sitting right here. And then over here, way up high, I actually have my CN 160, and it's acting as a hair light. And I do have that orange filter on there just to add in a little color emphasis. Now over here, I do have my purple LED bulb, which shows a lot more splash that way, but it does put just a little hint over here that shows up nicely on camera. Of course, I have my practical light there, a practical light here, my lighting back behind, and this little guy. And then finally, I have my last lamp, which again just has a color LED and just blows that all over against the wall. So there you have it. It's a pretty simple little setup. It just required a little bit of rearranging and practice and just implementing these different things. So if you're not getting a look with your lighting setup that you enjoy, I highly recommend that you just keep experimenting and playing around with different things. There was a time where I just started blowing money on all kinds of light bulbs and different things to try to get the overall look that I wanted, and I just wasn't satisfied. But in reality, the answer to a lot of these questions are always usually pretty simple. So for about 80 bucks, as I mentioned in my last video, you can have a lighting setup very similar to mine, 2 lights that work extraordinarily well. Just make sure you dial in that white balance, get your aperture and everything set right, find a lens that you enjoy, and just kind of move around that that space. But guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel if you'd like to see more content, and as always, be sure to create something new today.